Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Monday mornings. I know not everyone could do Friday, so we're back on Monday now, going strong. Those of you who were with us on Friday, which was just 3 days ago, can you believe it? We had a lot to share and we ran out of time actually. So today, again, there's so many beautiful ideas and so much to share. So we'll see how we go. We'll see what we get through, but then there'll always be more material for next time. But please do keep sending in the precious gems that you share of yourselves. That really is the best part of this class. And you were just saying that it gives us a chance to get to know each other on a much deeper level than saying hello at Kiddush, or when we're doing cooking together at Bushy Gives Back, or whatever the level. Like hearing from people sharing some really, really deep parts of themselves, for me, is really special. And I think there's something about it being anonymous that makes it wonderful as well. Nobody needs to feel that they're being too vulnerable, but you just know that someone in this room has shared something that's really, really something special. So we're going to start with a couple of letters that came in. One of them I told you I wanted to share with you last time, and I had printed the picture, but I hadn't printed the email. So I was saving it to share it with you because this one's really very special. Dear Jacqueline, and remember this was written a week and a half ago, must be now. Like many, many Jews worldwide, we have been following the horrendous happenings involving our people in Israel. We are far away from the comforting embrace of our wonderful Bushy family, as we're currently in Tasmania. Even though we talk about it with each other, it's really clear how much belonging to Bushy community supports and nurtures us during this awful time. However, as we waited for dinner at the Lodge restaurant last Friday evening in the middle of Ngorongoro National Park, is that how you say it? Yeah, Ngorongoro National Park, a miracle happened. And I'm crying as I write this. Our waiter quite randomly brought over to our table a candelabra with 2 candles. He lit them and left us. We'd each ordered a glass of red wine when I noticed that the basket of rolls, normally just round, was shaped like mini chalot. Maybe it wasn't halachically correct. I quietly said the brachot for Kiddush and felt an amazing feeling that Hashem was looking after us. Below is a picture of our little Shabbat table. Thank you for our wonderful Emunah mornings. They have taught me to look for God everywhere with love. And I think that really is what I'm beginning to try to learn, is to look for God everywhere. There's something that's so powerful about listening with different ears. We talk about the idea of rose-tinted glasses. It means that everything you see is rose-colored, right? And there are people who can look at the world in just a wonderful way. That's a really positive prescription to be able to have. But I think what we're trying to work on here, and we spoke from the beginning about it, working on a muscle that we have. What we're really trying to do is work on that muscle that will hear the good that we see in the world. Because if we wanted to focus on the negative, boy, is there a lot of it, right? If we wanted to find what to worry about, what to be down about, what to criticize, it's a very easy thing to do. And any of us that know somebody, or maybe even ourselves, that has a naturally very critical voice inside our head, it's a very difficult thing because it's constantly telling you to look at things from the negative. But when we come together as this group and we choose, because we're choosing this, right? We're choosing to try to focus on the positives, it can really, really help us. So with that in mind, I'm actually going to share with you 2 things that I particularly jumped out at me in the last couple of weeks. And that I realized that probably before we started this a few months ago, I wouldn't necessarily have given it the weight that it deserved, or given it the thought and the time that it deserved. On my phone, I now have a WhatsApp group that's just called Emunah Notes. So anytime something happens that I want to be able to share with the group, I put it on there. And then on Monday morning, I can see what all the different things that happened during that week was. So it's the sort of thing that I'll now write down. I'll now write and make a note of. but I wouldn't have done necessarily before. I definitely wouldn't have done before. Like, it's because of you. It really is. But it's training me to focus on those things more. So one of them was that a friend of mine, when we met up last Sunday. Yeah, I'm trying to keep track of it. We met up last Sunday because the people who run CORE, the group that I told you about, were here in London. So we had a meeting, and one of my fellow Rebbetzins was talking to me, and she goes, you know, she was just telling me, actually, she said that she's using her husband's car, and it's an electric one, and she's worried that the charge is going to run out because she's not used to driving around in an electric car. And then she just happened to tell me that the reason that they're sharing a car at the moment because her car, someone drove into the car. Thank God everyone's okay. But the car was a write-off. The company decided it wasn't worth putting any money in to fix the car. So they wrote to her and they said that they'd give her £2,500 for the car. And her husband called them up and he said that it doesn't help you to give us that money because we can't buy a car for that amount. Like, what the car was worth is much more than we can't get anything. I think it was probably a 7-seater. We can't get a car for our family for that amount. So the company said they said, we'll let you know, we'll get back to you. And they let her know, let's say on a Wednesday, that they're going to give her £5,000 for the car. And she told me that that day they found out that their daughter got into SEM, and you had to pay that day £5,000 for her to go to SEM. They did not have £5,000 for her to go to SEM, but just that day, the company called up and said, here you go, here's £5,000 to go towards a car. And they used that money to pay for her to SEM. Now, obviously, she's going to have to find some other money to get a car, but that will be tomorrow's problem, right? Right there and then, they really need to put down a deposit on SEM to guarantee her place. And Hashem sent that message to them. So when that was one story, again, something that I would probably have said, wow, that's really cool, and walked on with the rest of the day. But I think because of this group, now I'm thinking, like, there's no such thing as just happened. Like, it was when she needed. You are where you're meant to be, right? The money came when it was meant to. And if we all think how much time we spend worrying and thinking, like, how's it going to work out? If it's meant to work out, it will work out, right? I'm sure everyone has examples in their life of that. So the second example, the second story I wanted to share with you is during the conference that we went to in Strasbourg, there were different sessions where we sat down with different people. One of them was amazing, actually. I sat the first one. You were meant to share. No, you didn't even need to share. You needed to think about a real, like, a dream or something that you want to achieve. And then before, you didn't even have to share it with the other person. But the idea was we each gave each other a blessing to have success in what we're doing. It was really powerful. You know, maybe one time we'll do something like that here amongst us. But what was amazing was the person I happened to be sitting next to is a young, very new Rebbetzin who's been married for 7 months. She was doing outreach before she got married, but she's really new. She's from New York. She's in Berlin. And it was so amazing for me to get a blessing. I mean, I was honestly, just after that minute of her giving me a blessing, I felt like we were soul sisters. Like, she really, from a really deep place, gave me a blessing. So that was one of the meetings that was really powerful. And then at another point, one of the sessions was all about listening and the power of active listening. And it really is, it's an amazing, if anyone's ever done any therapeutic training or things like that, it's a really powerful idea to actually really listen to what someone's saying, rather than listen because you want to change, listen because you want to correct, listen because you want to give, right? Those of you who worked in those kind of fields know that there's a real art to just listening and hearing what the person wants to tell you, not listening so that you can fix or tell or explain, etc. So the lovely thing about that was, actually, I had that session, and then the following day, Elchon and I are both doing like a rabbinic counseling taster course through the United Synagogue, and he was actually presenting. So I sent him a picture. I said, look, we just did something on active listening, and his session the next day was on listening. So that was really interesting. But anyway, the lady that I sat down with, and again, I was listening with different ears, but the lady that I sat down with, she told me that she'd come from Amsterdam, and she now lives in Antwerp, and she's been there for a few years. And we spoke about imposter syndrome last time, those of you who were with us. So we were talking about this idea that when she came to Antwerp, In Amsterdam, there's hardly any Jewish studies teachers, right? So she taught Jewish studies. When you get to Antwerp, everyone can teach Jewish studies. So like, who am I? And she got over her imposter syndrome, and she, in a small way, first she started with curriculum training, then she became a teacher, and it developed and it developed. And so we're just talking about it, and I said, how have you settled and how's it going? I can't remember exactly how many years she's been there, but and then I asked her, what does her husband do? And she told me that he's a banker, or he works in the banking industry, something like that. And yeah, I'm not sure exactly what, but he'd moved from his job in Amsterdam. The reason they'd moved is because of the education of their children. They needed them to be in better Jewish education than what Amsterdam could provide. And then she told me this amazing story. She said that he was really trying for 2 years to find a job. It was really very, very, like a very, very big struggle. And she said apparently that in Antwerp, they don't look very positively on people who've come from Amsterdam. There's like, there's not a lot of trust between them. There's a bit of a challenge there. So he was going to job interview after job interview, and he was really struggling. And it 2 years to look for a job, he was really struggling. And he thought to himself, he had an interview at a bank, and he said to his wife, do you think if I didn't wear a kippah, and this is a very religious family, yeah? Do you think if I didn't wear a kippah, it might help? And his wife said, like, of course you're going to wear a kippah. Like, you're not going to go. I mean, you could tell they're Jewish anyway, right? But of course you're going to wear your kippah to the interview. So he said, yeah, you're right. But the thought crossed his mind, like, maybe that could help. It's not a Jewish company. Maybe it could help. But anti-Semitism is so bad at the moment. Maybe it would help not to wear his kippah. But he did. He went to the interview with his kippah on his head, and he got the job. And he asked the person who hired him, and he said, can I just ask you, why did you give me the job? Because I'm from Amsterdam. I don't speak fluent, whatever they speak in Flemish or whatever. I don't know what, they speak so many languages, so I don't know what the language was. But, why did you give this job to me? And he said, when you came into the interview, I saw that you had a kippah on your head. And I realized that meant that you're somebody who's got backbone. And this is like a very moral kind of role that we need within the bank. It was all about, she explained to me, it was all about like checks and balances and making sure that people behave in the right way. And we realized that we needed someone who really had a strong moral fiber. And he said that because you came to the interview wearing a kippah, it showed me that you're someone who won't bend on their values. You'll stay strong with your values. What a story. What a story. And then I thought, you know what? It's not just a story. I could have been paired up with anyone. It was random. It was. She actually came up to me. She said she didn't have someone to sit with, so we sat together on the grass in the park outside. But it wasn't random, was it? It was a story I was meant to hear, and that really, really inspired me. So this, like I said, this group gives us a chance to think about those things that we really need to focus on. So another wonderful email to share with you. Dear Jacqueline, I'm not a confident writer, so forgive me for not writing sooner. I prefer to contribute verbally in the moment. So many of the contributions you have read out are beautifully written, very moving, and often express all I want to say without me having to go through the agony of writing it myself. Nevertheless, I realize this is not a creative writing competition, so here goes. Let this be a message to all of you who haven't yet written in an email. It doesn't need to be, I know some of the emails are just, all of them are amazing, but really long and beautiful. We just want to hear from you. Just share. It can be a line, it can be a paragraph, just share. I have always felt secure in my Judaism. I have never not wanted to be Jewish or wanted to hide my Jewish identity. But is that the same as faith? To have faith, do I need to declare that I believe in Hashem and that he exists? My understanding is that Hashem made us in his image, but it is not about our physical form that is in his image, but what we do with it. We, like him, are creative. We can tell right from wrong, good from bad. So in our everyday actions, we can demonstrate our faith by the things we say, the things we do, the way we live. For me, it is a sense, a feeling, my values, my words, my actions. It's not something concrete that I can see or touch or even define. Since October the 7th, I am more conspicuous about my Jewish identity. I wear signs and symbols so that anyone and everyone can see and know that I am Jewish. I also pray more, much more than I have ever done before. Sometimes I wonder if my prayers are heard. Will they be answered? Do they make a difference? And if so, will I ever know? But most of the time, I just pray because I need and want to. Every day, something in your session speaks directly to me, resonates and reverberates within me, and exercises my faith muscle. A few examples, but there are many more instances, are the way Emily Damari found hope and comfort in saying Mizmor LaTodah and saying thank you. Those of you who weren't there for that session, we still have a few cards. This was the prayer that Emily Damari read every single day that she woke up in Gaza, saying thank you. That's what she wanted to say. She wanted to say thank you. The short prayer after Aleinu, which I had also noticed just 2 days before, and added it into my prayers because the meaning was so powerful for right now. The last 2 lines of Adon Olam that comfort me before I fall asleep, right? God is with me, I shall not be afraid. When you talked about imposter syndrome on Friday, I absolutely know how that feels. I wonder how many of us can resonate with that. On Monday, the 28th of April, we met in the Bradley Crett building. It was also my mother's birthday, and I was missing her very much. My mother loved butterflies, and I found myself sitting directly opposite the window, which perfectly framed the children's memorial butterflies on the Shul wall. I don't know if everyone's noticed them, but as you go out, like to Kiddush, on the wall there's beautiful butterflies, remembering children who passed away within the community. It's a very special part of the Shul that not everyone even knows is there. I smiled to myself and cried at the same time. I knew I was where I was meant to be. Thank you, Jacqueline, for your essential and unmissable faith sessions. Wherever and whenever they are, I am where I'm meant to be. That's really, really beautiful. One of the things that was mentioned at the conference was the idea of, as this letter shares so beautifully, the idea of each one of us was created in God's image. And the idea is to really put what God gave us out into the world. I know that some of the women here are going to be joining us next Sunday. We're doing a women's retreat, so it might be repeat information. There's actually 2 slots left. So anyway, if anyone isn't coming, if you'd like to. But one of the things we're going to be doing is yoga. So part of what I was, again, listening out for is things to do with breath. And on the conference, Aliza, I think, shared with us the idea that if everyone now, you can all do it with me, if everyone breathes in and holds your breath, eventually what you have to do is breathe out, right? You can breathe out. Right? What happened was when God created us, he breathed into us, right? Nishmat Adam. God blew into us, through our nostrils, God blew into every one of us, or to the original human, which then passes down to all of us, our soul. And that soul was inside of us. But you can't hold your breath forever. So what do you eventually have to do? You have to breathe out. And when we breathe out, that's our way of putting that soul of God into the world. But it's not just about breathing. It's about we have God inside of us. And through our actions and through what we do, that's how we bring him into the world. So that was a very, very powerful idea of bringing what we do into the world. So again, not everything that we go through or that we see is messages to us. And actually just before the session, again, I know lots of you are on the Bushy Gives Back group, but I just saw this just before I came here, which was amazing. So Emma Gell actually shared this, which is a picture. She said, this picture was taken by my husband of his client finishing an Ironman race in France yesterday. As she went through the finish line, draped in an Israeli flag, the crowds cheered. Something nice at last to report. I just felt like that's so powerful and so special. You know, on Friday, 2 days ago, 3 days ago, we spoke about the anti-Semitism that happened in France. But I think that that's really special to see. Let's celebrate the fact that you can wear an Israeli flag when you finish a competition, and to be proud of that, and to be proud that people in our community more and more, like the email said, we're looking for ways to show that we're Jewish, and we're looking for ways to show that we're proud to be Jewish. And those are really, really powerful. So today's learning, now that we've read our wonderful email, today's learning is sponsored by Helen Mayer for a lovely reason. Sometimes it's for a yacht. So today we've got a lovely reason. It's as a big mazel tov for Ellis and Alex's engagement. So mazel tov, we are so super excited. Our biggest revenge for Hamas, for Iran, for the Nazis, for everyone, is the fact that we will continue to build wonderful homes amongst our people. Every time you go to a wedding and they smash the glass, that's exactly what it's like. When we say Am Yisrael Chai, we're focusing on the fact that the next generation is going to continue making us proud. And that is really something very, very special to celebrate. And that's why we have biscuits. So please all make sure that you have one of the biscuits before you leave. They're mixture biscuits, no calories today, right? Okay. So as I said, our biggest proof to our enemies that we are victorious and that we are strong is the fact that we are still here. And I want to share with you now a few things that really resonate with that. So the first one is that when again, I'm going to talk about a few things on the conference. On Friday, there were so many letters, I had hardly any time to share anything from the conference. So we're going to talk about it today. But when we were on the conference, on the first evening before we went to dinner, a man showed us around, and his name was Yoav Rossano, Director, Department Patrimoine and Culture for the Consistoire Israélite du Bassin, right? So he has an important role within the Consistoire of Strasbourg. And he showed us this amazing shul. Has anyone been into the shul in Strasbourg? It's in the big Jewish building. Anyone been there? I really recommend it. Okay, maybe we'll do a shul trip to Strasbourg. It really was unbelievable. But what he explained to us, he told us about the pride and the importance of how connected he feels to shuls. Like an amazing man. He was so passionate about what he showed us. I'm just going to see if I've got the picture. So it was probably like the whole length here. No, I think even taller. And they had a massive Aron HaKodesh with loads of Torah scrolls. It's like really, really beautiful, huge shul. But what's amazing is actually the building that it's part of. There's 5 or 6 different 5 different shuls within that building, and they all get on with each other, apparently, which is amazing, right? Who's heard of such a thing? They're all part of the consistoire. So, sorry, I'm saying it wrong, I think. Consistoire, right? They're all part of the consistoire, which means that the government pays for the rabbis in their positions. There was a Sephardi shul, there was a big Ashkenazi shul. There's lots of different things going on. In that building, there's a school. In that building, there's a mikveh. It's just unbelievable, all the different things going on in this one building in Strasbourg. Really, really powerful, really special. And that's where we spent most of our time, was there. So this man's taking us on a tour around, and we were sitting in the pews of the shul. It's quite an old shul, like from the 18-something. I can't remember exactly what, but it was when they were finally allowed to, when they were finally allowed to rebuild. No, it was originally from them. I think it was destroyed at the time of the Nazis. So after the war, they built this really unbelievable shul. But then he told us something a bit personal about himself, why he's so passionate about shuls. And he told us that he had gone on holiday with his family to Poland, and he'd seen while he was in Poland, they'd come across this shul that didn't even have a roof. It was in so much, it had been so badly damaged by just time. It was old, it hadn't been looked after by the Nazis, it really had been destroyed, and it was overgrown, completely overgrown all over. So this man was there, and he decided to move with his family for a few months, he thought, to repair this shul. So he picked up his 3 children and his wife, and he moved to this place. And they were like schlepping the stones and, clearing the weeds and really clearing out this shul. And it didn't take him 3 months. It took him quite a long time, but he actually ended up staying there for 5 years. Why? Because every week, he said, once they opened this shul, every week between 3 or 5 people would come and they'd say, I'm Jewish, or my father's Jewish, or my grandmother was Jewish, or I have this connection. And they'd come into the shul and they'd just be like, oh, I remember coming here when I was a child. Or I remember, you know, these are just Polish people who you think there's no connection at all. And in his words, he said, when you open the doors to the shul, you open the doors to people's Jewish heart. And he was really very, very passionate about shuls and the Jewish community. And that's what he does, is he looks after shuls. He also said he looks after graveyards. So that's what he does as well, is he goes and he especially tries to restore the wording on the gravestone. That's always so important, to actually see what the person, what it says about the person. You know, when you go to really old cemeteries, I always feel this, like, I wish you knew what it said, because you can't put a lot of words on a gravestone, but it really does encapsulate a person. Like, we know that if any of us have had to choose the wording to write on a matzeva, it really does encapsulate the person. So this is what he does. It wasn't till the end of the conference on Wednesday evening, when just the 5 of us who from Core and the lady who'd organized it, we went out together for dinner. So it wasn't till then when we kind of, I told you, we had our debrief, when Charlotte Dunner, the Rebbetzin who organizes these conferences, she told us that this man's actually, his wife's not Jewish. So he's a Jewish person and he's married out, right? Which means halachically we know his children aren't Jewish. I think what struck me so strongly, and actually it had been something that people had shared at the conference as well, was I think sometimes we might think in our heads that when somebody chooses to marry out, that's their way of saying that, you know, I'm kind of drawing a line with my Yiddishkeit, I'm drawing a line with my Judaism. And the message that was so strong to me is that that's not what happens. Nobody's saying that the choice that they made is right? Nobody's saying that the choice that they made isn't heartbreaking for them and their family. It's a very difficult thing that somebody does when they marry out. But actually, the idea that the soul inside of us, that pintalayid, that little Jew, that spark of God, that neshama that's inside of every single one of us, it's still there. This man is dedicating his life to the Jewish community. For whatever reason, he married someone who's not Jewish. But that Yiddishkeit inside of him is still there. And again, if you think about you are where you're meant to be, for me as a Rebbetzin of a community, and we all know that this is something that we're really grappling with as a community, intermarriage is an all-time high, right? It's something that's really difficult in our world, and it's something that we need to support each other through. But I think to know that actually this just because somebody's making a choice that it hurts, it's difficult, doesn't mean that that person is giving up on the Yiddishkeit. And I know I was talking to someone on Shabbos about this, and they were saying, you know, that they know a family member who is marrying out, who wants to get involved with CST. Now, there's a lot of charities you can get involved with. CST literally shows you that I care about my Jewish identity and I want to keep my brothers and sisters safe. Like, there's no stronger way of showing that this is what really matters to me. And to me, like, that says so much. It doesn't take away from the challenge. It doesn't take away from the pain. And, you know, if I was talking to younger people, I would say, it doesn't mean that we don't say to our children the whole time how important it is for them to marry someone Jewish. You know, when I talk to my bat mitzvah girls, we talk about the 3 mitzvot that are special for women: lighting candles, challah, and mikveh. When I talk about the mikveh, the way that I frame it for them is I talk about, you know, please God, when you're older, that you'll get married. And I do say to them the idea of getting married. I say, what does it mean to get married? And to make sure that we talk about like a 3-stage pleasure plan, right? If you want to enjoy some chocolate, so we'll say that make sure before you eat the chocolate, you need to check that it's kosher. How do you check that it's kosher? So if we're old-fashioned, we'll say, look in the kosher guide. Yeah, there's an app, right? They all know about the app. Is it kosher app? So we do it together. We look up, is the chocolate that you want to eat? What's your favorite chocolate? Let's look it up. Is it kosher? That's step 1. Step 2, we say, is that you need to make a bracha. So that I'll ask them, some of them will know, some of them won't. We talk about what's the bracha. And step 3, Hashem says you should enjoy. right? Then we talk about, when we frame it, I ask them always to give me an idea. Then when we frame the idea of mikvah, we speak about the idea of Hashem created the world with pleasures of marriage. That's how I explain it to our 11-year-old girls. Yeah, some of them know, some of them don't. It's fine. Then I say that Hashem wants us to be able to enjoy the pleasure he puts in the world, but he wants us to do it within this 3-stage pleasure plan. So what do we have to do? Number one, we have to make sure, is it kosher? What does it mean that marriage is kosher? So some of them will know about chuppah, some of them will know about, making the blessings over the wine, mainly if they've been to a wedding, right? Some of them might have been bridesmaids, 11-year-old girls. Some of them have been to weddings, some of them haven't. So we talk about that. And then I say, yeah, that's right. But I say, we need to have 2 Jewish people getting married under chuppah. And then I actually say to them, and again, I know that an 11-year-old you can say this to. I'm not talking to 21-year-olds plus, right? And I say to them, it's not just about marrying someone who's Jewish. It's about making sure that you date people who are Jewish, right? I can say that I'm the Rebbetzin, I can get away with it. Many of us will remember what we were told maybe when we were little is, the Holocaust happened, you have to marry a Jew, you break grandpa or grandma's heart, etc. I don't think those messages work anymore. But from the younger generation, we do need to still be saying that to them. And I think what's challenging for me now is I'm not sure that all the parents of the 11 and 12-year-olds even are saying it at that age. Like I said, when you're older and you've already met someone, it's very hard to have the conversation. But when they're younger, I don't know anymore. Because even now, what we're hearing from the younger parents is as long as they're happy. And it's hard to say, how do you explain that marrying someone Jewish is so important? And I think it's sometimes the people who know the pain of when that doesn't happen, that know it more than we do even, that know that this is something that's so important. But anyway, that's part of the message that I give. And I think it's so important to say that, but at the same time to realize that the direction that the world's going in and the direction our community is going in is that intermarriage is something that is very much present, but we must never ever give up on people. And we must never ever say that people are no longer connected to our community. And I know it's hard, and I know halachically the challenge of, we know if a man marries out, their children halachically aren't Jewish. We know that that's a really painful reality. But to still realize that the connection is always there. And to see this man who's dedicated to his life, really dedicated his life to fixing Jewish cemeteries and fixing Jewish shuls and giving Jewish tours. And he is so proud of his Yiddishkeit. There was something to inspire me. I can learn from him. So I think that was a really powerful, important lesson. I think that, I was where I was meant to be in terms of, it was something I really needed to hear. But as well was the Rebbetzins that we spoke to. This isn't unique to Bushy, right? This is globally. But the Rebbetzins in Europe are seeing that as well. But we all need to be told, don't take it personally, don't give up, don't feel like your mission is any less important than it really is. It's okay, just keep trying, keep doing, keep it inspiring. And we kind of gave each other strength in that. And I think for families as well, that's the important message is, keep making those beautiful Friday nights, keep lighting the candles, keep praying, keep having Seder nights, keep showing the love that we have for Yiddishkeit. Because that flame, that spark is still always there. I wanted to share some other beautiful things that I've got my notes now out of order. This is what I always do. Yeah. Okay. So one other thing from the conference that I wanted to share, and then I've got probably a few other bits that I'll share with you as well. So we had, I can't remember if I shared this on Friday. Did I talk about the gala dinner with the black and white? No. Ooh. So the conference was Monday till Wednesday. So Monday night was just us together. We had a lovely dinner. We had someone shared some beautiful words. And then on Tuesday night, the Rebbetzins of Strasbourg had put together a gala dinner. But French Strasbourgian women know how to party. I can't even tell you. So first of all, on the WhatsApp group before the conference, the amount of times that they told us about this dress code, you had to wear black and white. You saw from the photo, yeah? But one of my friends said she saw that and she laughed. She thought it was a joke, but it wasn't. We all had to come in black and white. But it wasn't just the, I don't know, 40 or 50 women on the conference. They'd invited all the women from the community to this gala dinner. And everyone had to wear black and white. So just what you saw in the photo was just one group. But you came in and everyone was wearing black and white. It was shtick, right? But it was, oh, you've got the dress code, see? You've got your black and white. But there was something actually really special about coming into a space like that. It just felt like this buzz. It was a party already. And we had to take a coach to get there. As we came in, they had, like you have at a bar mitzvah, they had a photo booth. So you could come in, massive sign, everyone could come in and take their pictures. It was really next level. Yeah, unbelievable. A few years ago, the conference was here in Watford. There wasn't anything like that. You don't know how to party like they do in France. And then as I came in, I saw this stunning, glamorous French lady who I hadn't seen at the conference. I could see she was wearing a shaitel, like a really, really unbelievable. She just held herself in a way. So I asked, she was trying to take a selfie. I said, do you want me to take a picture of you? So I did with the European conference in the background. And I said, are you part of the community? She said, no, I've come, I'm the entertainment. I think she's from Paris. I'm not sure, but she clearly was in her previous life a pop singer. Like she was a Jewish pop singer. Like I can't explain it another way. She stood on the stage with a sparkling microphone and she sang, and we danced and danced, and everyone. What was amazing was the community. You could see it was a whole mix of different religiosities, Ashkenaz, Sephardi, everyone there. And boy, can they dance! It like put us to shame. It was like a simcha, but it went on and on and on. I don't think we started eating the meal till after 10 at night. You know, it was really like dancing and singing. It was unbelievable. And it really, what struck me, and I think that we can all feel this whenever you go to a simcha, whether it's a wedding, a bar mitzvah, whatever simcha you go to, the music is all prayer. You know, the one that's stuck in my head at the moment is Hashem Yitvarach Tamid Ohevoti. Hashem, who's blessed, he always loves me, but Tamid Yiyeh Li Rak Tov, and he'll always be just good to me. Va'od yoter tov, and even more, right? We all know this. Va'od yoter tov, va'od yoter, even better and even better and even better and even better. You know, you see the videos of people in the underground and bomb shelters or in the car parks or standing on their cars. I don't know if any of you saw it, singing this song of that it's going to get better and better. Already it's good and it's going to get even better and better, right? So apparently having missiles from Iran falling down on you is already called Hashem loves me and is good to me, but it's going to get even better and better. That's the Israeli people. It's like unreal. Someone from the group shared this beautiful picture with me. I don't know if any of you saw it. So it said, Dad, what does defeated mean? And the father replies, no clue, son, we are Israeli. That says it all, doesn't it? No clue, son, we are Israeli. So then we had this incredible dinner. And then towards the end of it, they had flown in from America a lady called Slovy Wolf Youngrice. Has anyone heard of someone called Esther Youngrice? Yeah? You heard her speak? Wow. So in my office, on my shelf, there's a book called The Rebbetzin. There's two Rebbetzins, they're very different, who to me are, besides the one, like I always talk about Rebbetzin, Erin Troy and Lady J were also unbelievable Rebbetzins. But there's two Rebbetzins. One was Rebbetzin Kanievsky, but in very different ways. And this Rebbetzin, I read this book and I'm like, you know, like when after each story, like my mouth opened wide and wide. She was unreal. She filled Madison Square Gardens for her talks. Like that's just not normal. Yeah, she was unbelievable. So she passed away just under 10 years, just 10 years ago, I think, which was actually very moving to me. And I'll share with you what she said, and you'll see why it was very powerful. Because my mum passed away. It's nearly 10 years now. And I felt like the message she was saying was so comforting for me. I got really emotional. I mean, we'd been doing this dancing, we were wearing black and white, we're eating, and they had macarons with francois on, you know, like the real French, like they went to town. It was amazing. And then she shared this message towards the end of the evening. It was really very late. And she spoke in English and they had a translator translating it into French. And I learned a bit of French in school, but my French isn't great. But it was really interesting to just see, even with that, right? It's very broken up when someone needs to translate the whole time. But it really was very, very powerful what she shared. So Rebbetzin Esther Youngbry survived Bergen-Belsen as a young child, I think of 4 or 5. Maybe she was that age, I think, when she went to Bergen-Belsen, she was 4 or 5. And she came from a very prestigious family, I believe in Hungary. So her daughter shared this message at the gala dinner. She spoke maybe for 20 minutes, and considering it was all translated, it was, really very, very powerful. And she was talking to, so it was, I could describe it as quite similar to United Synagogue kind of crowd, a real range of people from a real range of backgrounds. And she was talking to women and speaking to them about the legacy that the very first Jewish woman left for us, which was Sarah, right? And we know the idea that, like I said, those 3 women's mitzvot, lighting candles, challah, and mikveh, those were things that Sarah really represented to us. And she particularly was focusing on the idea of those being a legacy for us. She spoke about the idea that there was Sarah had a cloud over her tent. That was part of the legacy. Her challah was always fresh from week to week, and her candles stayed lit from one Friday till the next Friday. This idea of the freshness and them staying alive, lit, and the candle is this idea of being alive with her Judaism. It wasn't just something that happened on a Friday night. This was something that infused her whole week. Then she spoke to us about this idea of every one of us creating a legacy. And this was the bit that made me cry. She spoke about that when the winds of war really changed from, I think it was in Hungary, her parents picked her up and moved and went to visit their grandparents. And she talks about, so this is now the great-granddaughter. Slovi is talking about her mother going to see her grandparents. And she talks about them being the Zayda, and the Bobby was called Slovachana, which is what Slovi's named after. So you can see she carries the legacy of her family when she was talking. These people are so alive to her, even though she never met them, because the grandparents were killed during the Holocaust. But they went to visit the grandparents. And Rebbetzin Esther, so Esther, when she was a little girl, she always used to sit on her grandfather's lap, and while he was learning or talking to her, and they had a very close relationship. And she said that when she was sitting on her grandfather's lap, she was a little young child, she could see that he was crying. And it's quite distressing for a child to see her sagely grandfather crying. And she went to her father and she said, Tati, why is Zayda crying? Why is he crying? So he said, come with me, let's go for a walk together. And the snow was very high outside. It was the winter time. And her Tati was walking, and he walked in front of her. And he was walking in the snow, and she followed after him. And then he suddenly stopped. And he said to her, he said, Esther, he said, why did I walk in front of you? So Esther said, because, why do you think I walked in front of you, not next to you? So she said, because you made footprints in the snow, and then I could step inside your footprints, because otherwise the snow was too tall for me and I would get all wet. And he said, that's exactly right. He said that the reason that Zayda was crying is because he can see that we're going to go through a very difficult time now. The snow's going to be very, very high for our people. Right? We feel that now as well, that we're going through, as a Jewish people, we're going through difficult times. The snow's very high. But what Zayda wants you to know, and what I want you to know, is that you don't need to think that you need to make it through the snow on your own. Because actually what you've got is you've got your Tati and your Zaidi, who have made imprints in the snow that you can walk in. And every one of us, and this was the bit that really got me, every one of us has people that have stepped in the snow before us so that we can follow in their footsteps. And every one of us has to keep stepping in the snow so that those who follow after us can step in our footsteps as well. Because that's what the legacy of the Jewish people is. That's who we are as Jews. That's the strength that we have, is we're not in this on our own. We don't need to think that in 2025 it's just up to us. We are standing on the shoulders of giants. We have all the tears that were shed in generations before us. I've shared this before, but I think the only reason that any of us are still Jewish and connected is because we've got somewhere back, could be way, way back, but some Baba who was standing over their candles and crying and praying that their children and grandchildren and great, 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 great grandchildren should still be connected, right? Should still be Jews, should still know what's right. In my own family, I've shared this many times, my grandmother could easily have been, she was going to be adopted by a Christian family. I don't know if we would have known that we were Jews. I really don't know. And she came from such a religious Hasidic family, but she was 12. You know, she was 12 when she came over on the Kinder transport. Who knows? Rebbetzin Jacqueline actually after the war when she was saved, I think she ended up in England, and I think she ended up together with some of the children who came from the Kinder transport. And I think for me that was a really powerful thing as well. Like maybe my grandma and her knew each other. Who knows? It could be, if you remember last time what we spoke about a few weeks ago with Iris Chaim, that she thought maybe the soldier and her son, maybe their paths had crossed. You never know. But then the message for us is every person whose path you come across, there could be something powerful there. You never know. I went to visit someone recently who told me that she's gone to Hasmonean. Someone a long, long time before me. But there was a reason I was meant to be there, so I could talk about Dr. Schoenfeld, which was something that she could connect to, right? And I'm very friendly with his granddaughter, so I mentioned that. And then I picked up the phone to his granddaughter, and we had we're very good friends, but we hardly ever speak. And we had a really important conversation as well with some of the things she's going through. It's just amazing when you look for it, when you see that Hashem guides the way.
I went to a party, Mark's work, you know, 900 people, we 4 Jews, right? He introduced him to one, very nice man. Yes, it happened to dozen English, but I mean, I didn't know he was good. He just texted me and said, that Richard that we met at the party, very nice man tonight, his nephew lives in Israel. He works at Aston, which is where my brother works, who's the managing partner. And when all last week, well, a lot of them lost their properties or whatever, his flat was also destroyed. So my brother took him in, and he's living at my brother's house. Right. And he's just texted me, never believe it, Richard's nephew is the boy that's living at Howard's house. Like, it's just the weirdest thing. It's just
and this was that friend of mine, that's her husband works with your brother, right?
Yeah, her husband works with my brother, yeah. But it makes me laugh because he's like the boss that everyone would always want, and he like the staff. And I've met this boy before, he's come to save them, but it's just so ridiculous. Can you believe it? Richard's nephew is the boy that's living at Howard's house.
It's almost like someone runs the world. Yeah. Something, not someone. It's almost like. Isn't that unbelievable? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I want to end with 2 things, actually. I'm going to end with. Hopefully the time will be kind to us. So first of all, I don't know if everyone saw this, but someone sent me before Shabbat. There was a message from Imam Hassan Khalgomi from Drancy near Paris. Did anyone see that? Okay, so this was, I think, on Friday, or I saw it on Friday. He writes, I, the son of Ishmael, an imam, a Muslim, a man of peace, hereby offer my sincere testimony about this extraordinary people. I must admit, I believe in religions and in miracles, but there is something about this people, the people of Israel, that truly feels like a living miracle. A person whom the pharaohs tried to erase 3,000 years ago and failed. A people whom the Babylonians tried to destroy 2,500 years ago and failed. A people whom the Romans wanted to annihilate 2,000 years ago and failed. A people the Nazis tried to exterminate 80 years ago and could not wipe out. A people whom the Arabs fought in 5 wars to erase from the map right? From 5 directions we've got right now, and failed. This is a small people in number, but possessing a unique strength, a divine blessing. Wherever they place their hand, they succeed in finance, commerce, science, philosophy, literature. A desert land they turned into a paradise without oil or gas, but with freedom, democracy, intelligence, and willpower. This is a people who gave the world Einstein, Newton, Kafka, Karl Marx, Nietzsche, Spinoza, Freud, and many others who left a mark on humanity. There are realities that neither reason nor logic can explain. There is only one word for it: miracle. For 2.5 years, this people have been fighting on 5 fronts. They said Israel would tire, that it was on the verge of collapse. Yet once again, it surprised the world by opening a new front against an Iranian enemy feared by many, even among Arab regimes. This people, though small in number, possesses the courage of noble, the wisdom of prophet, the patience of righteous men, and the determination of survivors. How could it be otherwise when they are the descendants of Abraham, Solomon, David, Moses, Jacob, Joseph, and 1,523 prophets and emissaries from among their offspring? This is the people who brought monotheism and faith in one God to the world, a people driven by a thirst for life, work, innovation, and continuity for over 4,000 years. Truly, I can find no other word to describe them than the miracle people. If the Arabs had clear vision, they would choose to align with this people, learn from them, collaborate with them. Perhaps they would absorb their knowledge, wisdom, and dignity. Hassan Khalgumi, Imam. I think when we can focus on the good messages that are out there. The other thing that I wanted to share with you was, oh, I've got a few more things. Okay, we'll manage. Let me just see. I'm racing against the clock. I want to share. So the other thing that I wanted to share from you, this is from Rabbi Eyal Vered. The week's parasha that we just had on Shabbat was Shalach Lecha, which is all about the spies, sending the spies. And one of the verses that the spies said, they said, or the whole Jewish people actually said when they heard the spies, they said, Lo nochal la'alot el ha'am ki chazak hu mimenu. We are not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we are. They instilled fear in the hearts of the people and caused them to be afraid. They told false tales of imaginary dangers of fortified cities and giant-like natives. They remained in the desert, right? That was the big mistake that the Jewish people made. They ended up staying in the desert for 40 years because they listened to what the spies said. They said, we can't ever make it to Israel. It's much too scary. And their children were sent to rectify their mistake. And it won't be a true rectification until it mirrors the sin and even goes a little bit beyond. So yes, is it dangerous here? It is, but we are staying, we're not going anywhere. But now comes another stage of the rectification, that final spark of it. 100,000 Israelis are stuck abroad, applying every possible pressure to return here, right? We all know that any Israeli who's outside of Israel, they are desperate to get back to Israel, to the place where rockets are fired, where there are sirens, where there is danger. For some reason, they are ignoring the advice of the Minister of Transportation to keep enjoying their vacation abroad, right? That's what they're just like, enjoy yourself. Have fun in Cyprus, in England, in every other part of the world, but in Bangkok, right? What do they all want to do? They all want to come home. They're calling them rescue flights. So instead, they've practically crashed El Al's website where registration for return flights is happening. They're calling them rescue flights. Usually, a rescue flight takes people from danger to safety. But here, a sort of wonder, people are being rescued from safety to danger, to the place of brotherhood, to the place of courage, to the land of Israel. We have seen an upside down world. This is the final rectification of that sin. Who has heard such a thing? Who has seen anything like this? On the week of Parashat Shalach Lecha, an entire people echo the cry of Kalev. Tova ha'aretz ma'od ma'od. The land is exceedingly good. Al tiru otam ki lachmanu heim. Sar tzilem alehem v'Hashem itanu. Al tiru. Do not fear them, for they are our bread. Their protection is removed from them, and the Lord is with us. Do not fear them. Kalev is no longer alone. When he was saying this to the Jewish people, they all ignored him. They weren't going to go up to the land. An entire people now walk in his path. They are guided by a different spirit, a spirit of faith and courage, the spirit of a nation that rises like a lion. My brothers and friends, these are historic days, days straight out of the Bible. How important it is to remain humble, to remember that in operations like these, built on surprise and deception, the distance between overwhelming success, think Beepers, Iran, and tragic failure, think Simchat Torah, is as thin as a hair's breadth. And everything depends on the divine presence resting upon us. A presence that flows from love of Israel and unity. That is the secret. The reason I got this article was I saw on one of my friend's statuses, she had written the very simple word. It said Hashem versus Iran, right? If the logic dictates Israel versus Iran, it's not Israel versus Iran, it's Hashem versus Iran. It's fine. It's fine. Yes, it's difficult. Yes, we're going through really hard times. Yes, unfortunately, we've lost lives, but the miracles that we're seeing and the percentages that we're seeing is miraculous times. But if we remember this message that it's Hashem versus Iran, just talk to Hashem. Keep talking to him. Keep praying. Keep saying thank you. Keep asking for safety. And know that the place we all need to head to is to Israel. Please God, we should continue to see miracles and more miracles. And like we spoke about, we're at the table, right? We're going through the birth pangs of Mashiach. Please God, he should come speedily in our days. Have a wonderful week.